It's as good a plan as any, right?
right?
All right, so I'm still having issues. We're not going live on Facebook, apparently.
Hmm. Oh, it says that we're live.
Are we
So,
live? We
yeah.
are live. Good morning. Welcome to Life Real Talk with Robin and Nina. You're getting a twofer today, and we thought we'd jump on and talk a little bit about disrupting yourself by yourself with your content and with your marketing, and of course with video. But this is really a conversation that goes beyond just a purview of working with video in your marketing. So this is going to be, I think, a really interesting conversation. I'm actually looking very much forward to it because we're smack in the middle of a big disruption ourselves, which, ta-da, is why we chose this topic. So good morning, Robin. How
Good
are
morning,
you?
Nina. I'm good. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm excellent. I am hyped up on about three espressos, and I have a double one in here too. So you might want to slow down the audio on this.
Perfect.
All right. Hey, so Robin, so why don't you kick us off with a bit of context? And you know me, I'll jump in when I think that I have something
Totally.
to add. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the genesis of this conversation is really, I want to say, 2 or 3 months ago, maybe two. Nina and I started talking, and essentially, we've been on this kind of content treadmill since around about the time COVID started. We got on like a really regular posting trajectory. We've kind of gone all in on LinkedIn as our main content mechanism, and really, I think we got very comfortable in terms of this was our pattern and this was our voice. And believe the word that Nina was using was like vanilla.
Yeah.
A lot of our content was, yeah, go ahead.
And sorry, so Eddie, on the topic of vanilla or creamer, yuck. Sorry for those of you who love creamer. No, it's regular milk and a lot of espresso. All right, go ahead, Robin. Sorry, yes, vanilla. And I love vanilla. So to all of us vanilla lovers, don't be offended.
But every day, right, you're doing the content, it's the same message. We were finding, people who gravitate towards video are not looking to just go to video because they want to keep doing the same stuff that they've always been doing, right? And so we were finding ourselves where what we wanted to do in the world and our messaging about what we were talking about weren't particularly aligned. And so,
Yeah, yes and no, because on one hand we want to have structures in place to create content that makes it easy and gets us to focus on the content rather than having to. So I think what we need to do is maybe separate the production aspect and the doing aspect and the showing up like this aspect versus the content aspect, right? Purely
yeah,
content.
and I think really what we're talking about, the piece that was unsatisfactory for us was really the messaging, right?
Yeah,
The content and the content production, great. Putting out
right.
content all the time, doing video easily, yes, we love
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But
exactly.
our messaging around content was, maybe even it was still resonating with other people, but I think maybe it had stopped resonating entirely with us.
I think
Um,
I mean, I know I was bored. And you know what? It wasn't even that I was bored. I was completely disengaged. So until recently, I had the luxury that somebody helped me with the writing, and I didn't take ownership on it anymore. And I think that was a big part of it. But I think it was also sort of like, shooting the breeze, shooting the breeze, busy with other stuff, right? Focusing on other stuff and not really owning my own voice or the voice of clockwise, right? Which are two different things, by the way.
right.
And that I think led to sort of a, yeah, we're saying what we need to say. We're saying what we are expected to say. We're saying what we think we need to say to attract people into our orbit and create opportunities for sales conversations. and we're doing it sort of run of the mill. I think if you want run of the mill, you can go with a big corporation or like with a big company or with an online course or something, right?
Yeah, it's like we really weren't leaning into, okay, what is the what specifically is amazing about doing video the way that we talk about doing it, right? Like
Exactly.
we were talking about video in general. And
Yeah.
I think we've even as like a digital marketing society, we've moved past that, right? There's so many little individual channels, and like, why does it matter to share your specific voice and your specific expertise with your specific audience?
Yes.
And a lot of times why that's important is because you, the expert in your topic, sees that there's one thing that's fundamentally not working about your industry, and you're out to make a difference in that point. And so
Yes.
talking about your industry in general doesn't really help anybody, or maybe it does, but it doesn't, like, you're not leaning into the most value or the best thing that you specifically can provide. Why are people listening to you specifically? And it's because you've got a particularly valuable insight about this one part. And we have that as well, right? Like, actually, Nina, let me put you on the spot and like give us 30, 60 seconds. Why did what was the genesis, what was the whole point about creating Clockwise and kind of breaking away from traditional video production? What was the problem that you were seeing that you wanted to fix?
I mean, for me, it's always been about giving a voice to everybody who wants a voice, right? And that's been something that's been running through my life since I've been, a young adult. And when I was a teenager, it was just my voice I wanted to hear a lot of. I love to talk. So really for me, when I was still, professional, not that I'm not a professional now, but when I was a producer on, big corporate gigs and documentaries, etc., what always like really, really, really stuck with me was that it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to, a good documentary or a good piece of video or a good piece of communication is all about what you're saying and not about the technique and all the fuss around it. And so for me, I really loved once I realized that I could shoot a video, a really good looking video with my phone. That was just for me was like pow. I mean, now we can give access to all these small businesses that never had access to that if they unless they parted with couples of tens of thousands of dollars. We can now give them a voice and have them show them how to create video quickly, easily, and be seen and be experienced on a whole different level. And that is what got me super, super, super excited. And whenever that was, 2015, I would say.
And I don't know, like, and I think that has remained pretty consistent and maybe even become a more refined vision.
Yeah.
And, going back to the problem disrupting ourselves, right? Like the video we were creating was not leaning into that, like helping people really stand out with their unique voice. It was, again, kind of going back to being a more in general. So,
And you know what it also is, Robin? I think feeding the beast, right? So you've got this, the 50 ton monster in the room that is saying, which camera should I buy? How many lights do I need? How do I edit? And those are all really important questions. And we deal with those when we work with our clients, but they're worth one call, one session. We take care of it, we show you how to do it, and then we want to focus on the voice. And I think we were feeding the monster that was asking all the technical questions
mhm.
too much.
Yeah, which was part of what you wanted to get away from in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of, I guess, the genesis of this conversation. So over the past couple of months, we've done some like really deep digging into our messaging and, okay, really, what is it that we want to say, and how do we want to support people, and really, how can we provide the most and the best value with our specific expertise in this kind of video marketing.
Yeah.
And that, and so that's why we're saying disrupt ourselves, but also really what we're leaning into is that like disruption. Lisa complimented you, call that feeding the monster.
Yes. I just came up with this. I like it. I'm going to use it again. Thank you.
Yeah. But like finding, that's almost where our style of video can be the most effective as well, is helping support people, find out what is that one distinguishing thing that they want to change, this specific thing about their industry.
No.
And I think even Seth Godin, in terms of product, he talks about like creating like a mini monopoly where like you're the best in the world at that. And I
Right.
think that's where video can really help you stand out, is it lets you distinguish, like, I am the best in the world at solving this particular problem, and I'm an expert at this part of my industry. And
Right. And it comes back to the niching part, right? So I think actually this is an interesting sort of crossways in our conversation right now, because I don't know about you, but I mean we're actually 25 years in business with Clockwise, June 1st of this year, which is around the corner. And whenever people would tell me you need to niche down, you need to niche down, especially when it wasn't chic and in yet, like, we're talking 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago, I'd be like fighting it. Like, no, 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 no. I have so much more to offer, and there's so many more people I could be servicing. And it just seemed so incredibly counterintuitive. So if you could hold that thought, and then on the other hand, you have the I'm a disruptor language, or I'm a change maker, which is a little less, which goes more into the vanilla, but is a little less. Maybe some people are uncomfortable with the word disruptor, and both of them, by the way, like authentic, just total buzzwords. But that's what we have in our language right now. So if as a disruptor, it's the same thing. If you're truly following your voice and you're truly being authentically you will be pissing some people off. And if you're not, then you're still vanilla. So it's sort of the same thing, like the niching a bit, where it's like, ooh, how much do I want to be out there? How much do I want to own this voice, or how much do I want to own? I had it the other way around. This niche, right? But it's really just in a way a very similar conversation. Is how much fearlessness are you ready to put out there, or how much courage are you ready to muster to really speak into your voice?
yeah, Lisa had another great comment. She said that I'll just read it. That's
Yeah.
disruptive in itself. Calling it out as the monster, it adds to your conversation about where to focus the energy and attention, and where to give permission not to, in order to be more effective. And I think that leans into exactly what you're saying, which, our whole mantra about video is it helps you attract your ideal clients. But a big part of that is, like, in your content, you need to be really clear about who, your ideal clients need to see themselves in your messaging, and being like, so if you're saying vanilla stuff, it's hard for people to identify with it. It's like, oh yeah, it's like nobody should look at your content and be like, maybe this applies to me. It should be a black and white, like, yes, that's exactly what I need, or like, no, I don't really need that. And that's a good place to find yourselves in, allowing people to like really clearly either qualify or disqualify themselves for being interested in working with you,
Yeah.
depending on how you're putting yourself out there.
Well, I think you're also doing yourself and your prospects a service, because if you really are speaking truly into your voice and you're not vanilla, I mean, then they're going to get a taste of what it is when they work with you, right? So, it does happen every once in a while that get on a Zoom call with somebody where you're going, yeah, I don't know. But since we're doing as much video as we have been, and I really rarely get on a call with somebody where I feel like a total disconnect. It's really a great way for people to self-select them, and the chances that if they jive with you are, I would say, are pretty good that you will jive with them as well, right?
So let's ground this a little bit. Who wants to be vanilla? Um, I
Who?
mean, it depends on the quality of the vanilla, really.
Well,
But
there's the vanilla bean thing, right, which
uh,
Eddie brought in earlier.
I
Yeah.
go down that rabbit hole forever. But okay, what I was gonna say is, so Nina, so it's been like a couple of months that we were like, okay, you know what, our content is too vanilla. We're not resonating with it. We want to mix it up, and we've really been kind of leaning into that. And I think that, what are some of the, just even in the last 2 months since deciding to lean into the disruptor messaging, or like getting away from being vanilla and trying to please everybody, what are some of the tangible things that you've noticed in your conversations with audience and clients around that, or even that you've just seen in yourself like doing what we're doing?
I think, well, first of all, I mean, we had a major shift, right? In our entire conversation around what we do, with whom we do it, and how we do it, right? So I think the first conversation we had was, what are we happy with and what are we not happy with? What works and what doesn't? And I think we very quickly, once we leaned into that conversation, we agreed that we had a pretty shitty quiz, and that we were just scaring the hell out of people with 20 questions that really showed you how incredibly inadequate you are with your video marketing, which is a bad way to start a relationship, even if you're the person who can help them with that inadequacy. Um, and we shifted the conversation, and again, that quiz was feeding the monster of, which camera should I use, blah, 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 blah. It was all the technical stuff. It was
Yeah.
very little about conversations about your content and your strategy and your mojo and how you show up and disrupt. So now, and with that, we immediately agreed that we needed a new quiz or a new lead magnet, and we wanted to stay with the quiz format. And we created the what is your video what is your video personality quiz? Is it video marketing? I forget.
Video personality.
What is your video personality? And the moment we framed that, I felt like everything we do, it's not that we're doing it differently now, but we're having different conversations about it, right?
I think the name of the game is clarity and focus.
Yes.
And that's even part of the problem that we're trying to solve, that we were falling victim ourselves to. It can be so difficult with marketing, right? Is you are like, what do I focus on? It's like you spending so much time generating content and like not enough time focusing on like what it is that the content is delivering. And I think now all of a sudden we've got a Gesundheit in advance. Sorry for that.
It's allergy season. I'm so sorry.
It's like now we've got now we've got a really focused conversation all of a sudden that we're having, where we know, it's no longer like we were falling victim a little bit to like throwing spaghetti again, right? It's like, I don't know, cyclical spaghetti cycles.
Yeah.
Man, we're into food metaphors today. But it's like now all of a sudden we know we have a direction again, and there's clarity. And not only that, but people are already responding to the content more positively. It's like all of a sudden there's been, with that one decision of, what we need to be clearer about what we're talking about.
Yeah.
All of a sudden everybody else is clear on what we're talking about. What
of course,
a shock.
because we're like surprise, yeah. And I think also that in shifting, I think what happens is just that you're doing what you're doing probably with a lot of what you need to do or want to do subconsciously correct or right. And if once you learn or get rid of your blind spots around how to talk about it or how it lands with other people, that is when that clarity piece just comes out really strongly, right? And allows you to speak to your audience much more focused and clear. I mean, those are both great adjectives.
Yeah.
And we have, so unfortunately on LinkedIn I can always see if somebody's not connected with us, I can't see who's commenting, but somebody commented, thank you somebody for doing that, saying, how much do you want to be out there? And I think that's actually a question I don't want to skip over. Do not confuse, and this is my little soapbox, do not confuse putting yourself out there authentically with talking about all the intimate shit that's going on in your life, right? Those are two very different things. And we mostly work with service providers and business coaches on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is not the platform where you're going to, talk about what you had for lunch and, all your personal stuff. So when we're talking about finding your voice and putting yourself out there, we're not talking about you talking about your sex life, but we are talking about you talking about what really.
Unless you're a sex coach.
Unless you're a sex coach, right? Of course. Thank you, Robin. And we're talking about what is it that moves you? What is it that makes you tick? What is it that makes you that person that people want to be working with on itch or problem or whatever XYZ. So I think that is a different way of putting yourself out there. And again, you control the conversation. And if you don't put yourself out there, you have no control over the conversation. And that's probably a topic for a whole other thingy ding.
I want to address one little part of that, because
Yeah.
this was a conversation that we had with somebody maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, where they had like a little bit of a negative taste in their mouth around video because they saw and this is actually something that the quiz has been helping with as well. Like they saw other people doing like a specific kind of video, where
Mhm.
they're doing like lives and in their house, and the person felt resistant to that because it didn't feel like authentically them, and I think that's perfect, and it wasn't, right? But
Yep.
that they don't need to do video that way,
Yep.
right? And that isn't, I'm trying to remember, I don't remember the specific niche that this person was in, but something
I think
around,
it was finance, right?
yeah. And it's like
Yeah.
that's not what your audience is going to resonate with anyway,
No. No.
and that's part of the keeping the conversation focused. And like really, video can feel like the putting yourself out there can feel scary, but to your point, Nina, it really can be like you have complete control over what you put out. It really is a very safe way, especially if you're doing pre-produced content. It's really a very safe way for you to present yourself in the way that you want to be perceived. And Lisa just said, which I think fits into this as well, the dialogue about getting so clear about the conversation you want to be having in your content is the perfect seeding to a sales success long before you have the actual sales call. And that's exactly what we're talking about with attracting your ideal clients, is like putting and that's really another way of like saying what your disruption is. How are you disrupting your industry is really another kind of clever way of saying like, what is your unique selling proposition?
Yep.
Right. How are you specifically solving the problem differently from other people, and crafting that message can be a major game changer if once you lean into your personality and what your message is, and really nail that part of your messaging and content creation.
Yeah, and this is something I would kind of dare you to do a little exercise, because when we have a club, where we have a couple of people in, that do video on a regular basis. And anyway, won't go into the details of it, but like it's a membership thing. So I asked my people in there whether what they were disrupting, and I basically got blank stares, right? And once I switched the conversation to what pisses you off in your industry, I couldn't shut the floodgates anymore, right? So if you don't see yourself as a disruptor or game changer or any of that, I would bet you my behind that you just haven't shifted your mindset around it to see yourself as such. So take a piece of paper and write down all the things that piss you off about your industry, and then the next step is what are you doing with your clients to fix that, and that's your disruption right
Yeah,
there.
you should make a video to that effect, Nina, just by the way.
Oh, I should. Okay, yes. And
Sorry,
if
New
it,
York is New Yorking a lot
I was
right
just going to say,
now.
if it wasn't for the sirens outside, we'll cut this out of this conversation. But it's I should just carry a soundtrack of New York around with me, like a couple of different sirens. So when I'm not in New York and with a backdrop, I can just pretend. We never hear sirens with you. You're too high up, right? Because you're in Brooklyn,
Oh,
probably.
I get them. I'm right next to the Barclays Center.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
just, yeah, for some reason, my mornings, I guess, are just calmer than yours.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm in Harlem,
I guess any like last things that need to be said, or any, context or
Lots of things.
clarification.
I thought we were just warming up, Robin.
It's 25 minutes. How much warm up time do you need?
Hey, Robin, will you put in the chat the link? Do you have the quiz link ready?
Oh no, but I can take.
But you
It'll
know what?
take two
I might.
seconds to
So
do.
you talk and I put it in. I think I created a text expander. Let's see if it works. There it is. So it's not hosted on our website yet. So please forgive the sort of awkward URL. But so the quiz that we were talking about earlier. is one of those things that really shifted the conversation for us towards clarity and focus, which is and actually there's a little story to this. So I'm working with this client right now, and I kept telling him, like, you need to put more story into your videos. Like, it's all intellectual, it's all up in your head. I would love to see you tell actual stories around the experiences that you're having with your clients, so people can relate to it more. And then I would get these videos, which he would start with a story, and then he would abort the story, or just, not just forget about it, or he would kind of pick it up at the end, but he would refer to them, and like to people without using their names, and it was just very unsatisfying. And then we created this quiz, and the four personalities that you end up being, and this is obviously, based on
Spoiler.
your questions, are the storyteller, the motivator, the educator, and the entertainer. And so Matt did this quiz, and he came out like with flying colors as the educator. And I'm like, I have to apologize. I'm so sorry I made you, be the storyteller that you weren't. And the moment we could lean out of that and into him being an educator, and just make sure that he did created content that was relevant and fit his style and his way of thinking and processing things. It's amazing now. He has always had good videos, but now they're amazing, right? So that's the difference that it makes.
Yeah. Quit
Yeah.
wasting time trying to make content that doesn't align with what's easiest for you and most effective.
Well,
I think is the
and
moral of the story.
Well, that's and I also want to tie the disruptor in there, because if you're not talking to your strengths, then you're not coming out and being clear on what it is that you want to disrupt and change, right? And how you're working with your clients. So it really all ties together.
Yeah.
Hey, so Robin, what are you?
I'm an educator.
Okay. I'm educated too, but since I can see into the questions, I'm actually pretty much a 50-50 between storyteller and educator. And Robin, you're an entertainer. You're a professional actor.
Yeah, but this is about like your content creation, right? And when I'm creating content, I think in terms of layered ideas. I'm perfectly happy to get up on a stage and sing and dance, but somebody else has got to come up with the song and choreograph the dance for me.
Okay, got it. Yep. Yeah. So you're the performer and not as much the entertainer. Is that fair to say? I mean, these are just
Yeah, just like as a content creator, I do really lean into, I'm totally an educator.
yeah,
Like even in my writing, and I can write a story, I certainly do, but it's just like the easiest thing for me to do is articulate ideas.
yeah, yeah. And I would sign on the dotted line on that. All right. So guys, if you're curious, I think you should hit that link. And I don't know whether the link made it into LinkedIn. I know I see I put it in, and it shows up on YouTube, which we don't really have an audience there. So I'll go in once we shut down the live, and I'll put it into the comments, so you all can do the quiz if you're curious, and disrupt away. And so I would love to hear in the comments, if you're still all hanging around and listening to this. What are you disrupting? What is your sort of your niche of the niche of the niches? That is, or what really gets your blood boiling about your industry that you're looking to change. That would
Yeah.
be a great conversation to have, and I'd be very curious to hear what that is. Yeah. So if that's it, Robin, anything you want to add?
I think we're good. I just will reiterate, you said this earlier and you kind of said it again just now, but if your eyebrow picks up when it's like, well, I'm not disrupting anything about my industry, then instead I want to replace that question with what pisses you off about your industry,
Yep.
and how are you trying to fix that with the work that you're doing?
Yep. Agreed. Cool. So go and be pissed off at your industry, and write it out in the comments.
And do something about it.
And do something about it. Exactly. And we will see you soon again. And until then, be well and stay healthy. Bye bye.
Ciao, ciao.